In 1986, a group of workers digging for clay near the city of Chengdu in southwestern China made a discovery that would shock the archaeological world. They found 2 pits filled with hundreds of bronze masks, ivory tusks, and golden scepters. The objects were unlike anything ever seen in China. Some masks had eyes that protruded like telescopes. Others had ears that stretched out like wings. One golden scepter was decorated with a fish, an arrow, and a bird. The civilization that made these objects left no written records. No one knows what they called themselves. No one knows where they came from. And no one knows why they buried their most precious treasures in 2 pits and then disappeared. Archaeologists named the site Sanxingdui, which means 3-star mound. This is the story of a civilization that should not exist. Let me describe what they found in those 2 pits. The first pit contained over 400 objects. The second pit contained over 1,300. Many were broken or burned before being buried. This was not a random trash dump. This was a deliberate ritual. Among the finds were bronze masks as tall as a person. The largest one is 1.4 meters wide and weighs over 100 kilograms. Its eyes bulge outward like cylinders. Some scholars believe this represents a god with telescopic vision. There were bronze heads with gold foil masks. The gold was hammered so thin that it weighs only a few hundred grams, but it was carefully shaped to fit each face. No 2 are exactly the same. There was a golden scepter over a meter long, covered with carvings of a fish, a bird, and an arrow. The carvings are so precise that they must have been made with a magnifying device. There were also over 500 ivory tusks. Elephants have not lived in that region for thousands of years. The tusks must have been imported from somewhere far away. And there were dozens of bronze trees. The tallest one is nearly 4 meters high, with 9 branches, each branch holding a bird. A dragon climbs down the trunk. All of this was made in the late 2nd millennium BCE, roughly the same time as the late Shang dynasty in central China. But here is the strange part. The Shang dynasty left extensive written records on oracle bones. Sanxingdui left nothing. No writing. No texts. No words at all. To understand why Sanxingdui is so mysterious, you have to compare it to the rest of ancient China. The Shang dynasty, which ruled central China at the same time, had a very distinct artistic style. Their bronze vessels were used for ancestor worship. They were covered with a design called Teoti, a mythical beast with 2 large eyes and no lower jaw. Shang art was formal, symmetrical, and highly standardized. Sanxingdui art is almost the opposite. Instead of vessels, they made masks and heads. Instead of the Teoti beast, they made eyes that protrude, ears that stretch, and faces that look almost alien. Instead of ancestor worship, their ritual seems to focus on eyes, trees, and birds. Some scholars have pointed out that the Sanxingdui masks look more like the art of Mesopotamia, or even the Olmecs of Mesoamerica, than like anything from ancient China. The bronze tree is also unique. Trees appear in many ancient mythologies as symbols of the connection between heaven and earth. The Norse had Yggdrasil. The Maya had the world tree. The Sumerians had a tree of life. And here, in the middle of the Sichuan basin, the Sanxingdui people built a bronze tree, with birds perched on every branch. The most striking feature of Sanxingdui art is the eye. Almost everything they made emphasizes the eye. The large masks have eyes that stick out like cylinders. Smaller masks also have exaggerated eyes. Even the bronze heads have eyes that are disproportionately large. One object, called the eye-shaped ornament, looks exactly like an almond-shaped eye. Hundreds of these have been found. Some are solid bronze. Some are hollow. Some are decorated with patterns. What does the eye mean in Sanxingdui culture? No one knows for sure. But in many ancient cultures, the eye represents knowledge, power, or divine vision. The Egyptian Eye of Horus was a symbol of protection and royal power. The Buddhist all-seeing eye represents wisdom. The Hindu third eye is the seat of intuition. Could the Sanxingdui people have worshipped a god with extraordinary vision, a god who could see everything? Or could the protruding eyes represent a mask worn by a shaman who could see into the spirit world? We may never know. But the emphasis on eyes is so strong that one scholar called Sanxingdui the civilization of the eye. Here is where this ties back to our previous episodes. The Sumerians, as we discussed, recorded that the Anunnaki came from the sky to create civilization. They depicted their gods with large, wide-open eyes. Some Sumerian statues have eyes made of lapis lazuli, inlaid to make them shine. The eyes were meant to be unsettling, to show that the gods were not human. The Sanxingdui masks also have unsettling eyes, but they take it a step further. The eyes literally protrude from the face. They are not just large, they are physically extended, as if designed to see farther than humanly possible. Some researchers have proposed a direct connection. They point to the fact that the Sanxingdui golden scepter features a fish, an arrow, and a bird. In Sumerian mythology, the god Enki was often associated with fish. The arrow could represent power. The bird could represent the sky. But this is speculation. There is also the question of timing. The Sanxingdui culture flourished from about 1200 to 1000 BCE. The Sumerian civilization had already declined by then. But the idea of gods with large eyes, gods who came from the sky, could have traveled across Asia over the centuries. No evidence of direct contact has been found. No Sumerian tablets in China. No Chinese silk in Sumer. But the artistic similarities are difficult to ignore. Perhaps the greatest mystery of Sanxingdui is why the objects were buried. The pits were dug, the objects were placed inside, and then they were burned. Many of the bronzes are broken. The ivory tusks are charred. The trees were knocked over. Then the pits were filled in and abandoned. This was not a hasty burial. It was a careful, deliberate ritual. But what was the occasion? One theory is that the city was under attack. The people buried their sacred objects to protect them from invaders. But if that was the case, why were they burned? You do not burn what you want to preserve. Another theory is that the ritual marked the end of a dynasty. When a ruling family fell, their religious objects had to be ritually destroyed. This happened in other ancient cultures. The Hittites, for example, had rituals for decommissioning old temples. Another theory is that the people of Sanxingdui believed the gods were leaving. If the gods came from the sky, and if they decided to return to the sky, their earthly representatives might need to dispose of the objects used to worship them. After the pits were sealed, the Sanxingdui culture disappeared. The site was abandoned. The people seemed to have moved away or been absorbed into other cultures. No one continued their artistic traditions. No one wrote down their stories. They left behind only their masks, their trees, and their silence. Let me summarize what we know and what we do not know. We know that a civilization existed in the Sichuan basin around 3,000 years ago. We know that they had advanced bronze casting technology. We know that they made objects unlike anything else in ancient China. We know that they buried their treasures in 2 pits and burned them. We know that they disappeared. We do not know what they called themselves. We do not know where they came from. We do not know why their art focused so heavily on eyes. We do not know if they had writing that has not survived. We do not know why they buried their sacred objects. We do not know if they had contact with other civilizations. We do not know what they believed about the gods. Every answer leads to more questions. That is why Sanxingdui is one of the most fascinating archaeological sites in the world. Sanxingdui does not fit neatly into the story of ancient China. It does not fit neatly into any story. It stands alone, a civilization of mask makers and eye worshippers who appeared from nowhere and vanished into silence. But here is a thought to leave you with. The Sumerians said the gods came from the sky. The Sanxingdui people made masks with eyes that could see across the sky. The Egyptians built pyramids pointed at the stars. The Maya tracked the movements of Venus. Everywhere we look, ancient civilizations were looking up. They were watching the sky. They were waiting for something. What did they see? And what makes us so sure that we are not watching for the same thing? If you want to continue this exploration, subscribe. In the next episode, we will compare the flood myths of China, Mesopotamia, and the Americas. Because every civilization has a story about the Great Flood, and they cannot all be coincidence.